Right now, you see Afghans stuck. You see them right now as we're recording this, sleeping at the Kabul airport, huddled. You see that the war on terror profited only those architects of the war. Who won? Right now, you see Afghans stuck. You see them right now as we're recording this, sleeping at the Kabul airport, huddled, trying to fight protection against the Taliban, who in less than 2 weeks were able to blitzkrieg and take over, province after province after province. And a 20-year war and a $2 trillion investment vanished just like that, because the investment was never in the Afghan people. The investment was always in a failed counterterrorism project called the War on Terror. I mean, you saw in the United States of America where Trump apologists and right-wing media, who were perfectly fine with Donald Trump's early withdrawal, praised it as he, negotiated with the Taliban, released prisoners. Biden does it. Now all of a sudden, they care about the Afghan people. So then I said on Twitter, if you really care about the Afghan people, if you do, here's a test. Why don't you lobby America to increase its refugees numbers and invite Afghan refugees to come to America? And Republicans, why don't you take the lead? And then what happened the next 2 days? You saw Fox News, Laura Ingraham, Tucker Carlson. You saw people like Charlie Kirk, Stephen Miller, literally repeat a white supremacist conspiracy theory, the replacement theory that, if these refugees come, they will weaken America and they will replace the rest of us, right? And so this narrative against immigrants and refugees and people of color, it's an ongoing white supremacist narrative that has now become mainstream in both Europe and America. And you just have to simply replace the immigrant. So right now it's Afghans, but like you said, it's been Syrians. In the 2018 midterm elections, it was Middle Easterners and the Mexicans and the undocumented immigrants. It doesn't matter. It's whoever is seen as brown, who comes from the quote unquote shithole country, as Trump allegedly said, right? That's the threat. You look back on 20 years and it's the most painful I told you so. No one gets any smug satisfaction from saying it. I was a 20-year-old college student at the time, along with thousands, we protested and we saw this would happen. And lo and behold, like Groundhog's Day, 20 years on, Taliban are back. America's out with its tail tucked between its legs. Afghan people are screwed. Jihadis will be emboldened. How can they not be? You see that the war on terror profited only those architects of the war. Who won? Military-industrial complex, Raytheon and all these other companies, and violent Muslim extremists, Taliban, right? Like, who else won? And so it's I don't want to say apathy. It's just painful. But what we've also seen is a shift in the sense that war on terror, endless war on terror, inspired a generation of Muslims to speak out, people to write their own stories, people to become journalists, people to become elected officials. And we're seeing, when that happened, there was 0 Muslim elected officials. Now we have Keith Ellison, Andre Carson, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, right? You're seeing more and more Muslims in mainstream pop culture. You're seeing Muslim terminology being used. You're seeing the immense Islamophobia of Donald Trump actually awaken fellow Americans and be like, oh, you Muslims and you Sikhs and you Indian Hindus and you immigrants, you weren't just whining and complaining all the time. Oh, look, there's racism. You guys weren't just making this up. US was invested in its agenda, and its agenda was a counterterrorism agenda called the War on Terror. And it kept thinking it could somehow win. And it kept thinking that somehow it can export its concept of a Western democracy onto Afghanistan without actually investing and engaging with the people who have lived there and suffered there for 40 years. It wasted money, it wasted time, it wasted efforts, it aligned itself with incompetent, corrupt bureaucrats and warlords. And what else do you expect? And the collateral damage, of course, were the Afghans. Hundreds of thousands injured, traumatized, killed, thousands of American soldiers killed, generation after generation traumatized. And now you're seeing even our allies, I'm talking about US allies, interpreters, people who worked with US groups, Taliban are hunting them, trying to find them. And so these people are trying to escape. These people are trying to find refuge. And it's a remarkable example of the type of callousness of the United States. And again, a reflection of how Afghans were never a priority because, yes, they withdrew, but could they have not done this in a manner in which they had prioritized refugee resettlement? Of course they could have. And it wasn't just US, it was also NATO forces. The United States' reputation has weakened in the last 20 years. First and foremost, as this indestructible superpower. It has been humbled. It was humbled in Vietnam by ragtag soldiers, and it was, let's be honest, it was humbled in Afghanistan. We leave with our tail tucked between our legs without any discernible victories, as the Taliban have literally just taken over within 11 days. I mean, to add insult to injury, that robust army was supposed to withhold for 6 months at least, 11 days. American allies probably can't trust us anymore, Muslim allies especially. America is ceding ground literally to Russia and China, who have maintained their embassies, and they're like, great, we'll step right in. Same thing happened in Syria. When Trump removed those forces, who stepped right in? Russia. If you were part and parcel of the US war on terror, and there were other NATO countries that supported and joined in the bombing, the disastrous war against Afghanistan and Iraq. But let's be honest, also bombing in Yemen, right? It wasn't just limited, right? Pakistan, Central Asia, our drone strikes and our forces have a large footprint. If you invested in that, then you have, I believe, a responsibility, especially if your pretext for that war on terror was that you wanted to save the Afghan women, right? Even feminist groups said it, we have to save the Afghan women. Then it is, I believe, your responsibility to come up with some strategy, some plan to resettle these Afghan refugees, to give them some shelter. So if you can work together to invade a country, maybe you could spend, I don't know, a weekend to come up with a plan and say, okay, we'll take 20, you take 40,000, right? You take 100, you take 200. This is a 5-year plan. These are some investments we'll make. And this is how, at the very least, we will try to help as many people as we possibly can.
We are truthful, unafraid, and independent because of you. Now you can help our reporting from the ground. Go to thequint.com, click Become a Member tab, choose a plan and pay. Because the truth is worth it.